I'm your private dancer, a dancer for money. Do what you want me to do. You know when you sing some Tina, you gotta make a stank face, yeah. Welcome back to my channel. It's Tyra here with another struggle review. Here to discuss Tina, the documentary now available on HBO. Now, I was very interested in this documentary because, of course, we do have, other documentaries about Tina and, behind the music-esque situations. And, of course, the film that we know all too well, What's Love Got to Do with It. But it's always good to hear something from the horse's mouth. Now, what did I think about this documentary? Do I think it added anything to her life? Did we find out things that we didn't know? Or was it just, kind of the same thing, but put differently? Before we get into that, I need you guys to drop down and subscribe to my channel and like this video. I'm going to give you guys a moment to do that. And then we're going to come back and discuss all things Tina. Hopefully subscribe to see more of me. Let's get into this documentary. Now, before we even get started, I just want to speak on Miss Tina Turner for a moment. Like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now, of course, I was not of any age when, she was at her heights and performing, and was really introduced to her through the What's Love Got to Do with It film starring Angela Bassett. But when, I started getting more into music and deciding and picking and choosing the type of music I liked, that's when I got more into her just as a performer outside of that film. Man, she is so electric, and I don't think she gets enough credit. She is practically lightning in a bottle on stage. You don't hear her spoken of as, you would hear, Michael Jackson or James Brown. But if you see her perform, and she gives you all of that. This is a person who gives her all on stage. Like, it's beautiful. It's raunchy. And then she has this, this raspy, growling voice, like a whole freaking rock star who was a Black woman. And I'm like, we need to speak on her. This is, we have the Beyoncés and all this. Now, this was that on that ladder. Who do you think Beyonce got it from? It's from her. And to just see her move and her voice and the perfection that she has on stage, it is a sight to see and something that should be honored outside of just a documentary. She needs, I think this documentary was just on the cusp of her being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Why? Why are we so late with this? Why are we so late with this? Like, give this lady her flowers while she is still here to smell them. Stop waiting for people to pass. That was another reason why I was excited to see this documentary, because she is here and she is in it and she is speaking. We see so much Aretha, so many, instances of, people waiting, for people to die to, take their life story and tell it the way that they want to, instead of us just hearing it from them. And I'm so glad that we got that here. And I'm just so glad that we are giving her some praise, because, honey, the breath control of it all. Whoo! And then on top of that, we're sexy. Like, this lady was beautiful. Like, the legs, she was, the legs before we knew what the legs were. And then she had to top it off. She has the most beautiful smile that you ever want to see, up there with the Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson smiles. Gorgeous. Like, we're gorgeous. We're dancing our ass off. The best voice. Her voice is so unmatched. Nobody else sounds like her. Give her flowers. So getting into the doc is shown in chapters. And the first chapter that we do get into is just Tina's kind of Tina's. We kind of get into her roots, and we get into her joining the band in general and meeting Ike and them just being smitten with each other as performers, and her kind of being written off as, just, oh, hey, I'll call you. Like, no, but when she actually, takes the microphone and shows, I have this big voice inside of this small body, Ike is just, enamored of her and like, it's just amazed and kind of looks to her as like, a little sister more than, a relationship aspect. And we also get into Ike and Tina having, some praise for Ike as to why she would be smitten with him in the first place. Ike as a performer is glossed over all the time. The things that he did with Tina in the tumultuous life that they had completely overshadowed anything that he ever done in his career. So the contributes the things that he contributed to rock and roll and, his Rocket 88 song and just his riff, if you ever like go back and listen to him play the guitar, it predates a whole lot of things, but he never got that credit and still won't to this day. Because if you speak of Ike, it's a meme now. He's, an abuser, he's the coke and all of those stories, but he was an innovator. But we don't talk about that. But it's at this point in the documentary that we also get into them as a couple, their relationship, and Tina, realizing, and the people around her realizing that he saw something in her and saw what she was as a performer and what she could be to him. And that led him to pursue her romantically and eventually marry her. Because, if you're tied to me in that way, there's no way that you can get away and stop performing. And I had a whole complex about, from songs that he has before and making other people famous and then leaving him, that she wasn't going to do that. Not only were you not just going to leave me, but you're married to me. The people that they have in this documentary speaking on their behalf who are really close to the issues, they do not bite their tongue on anything. Everybody is very free and open and opinionated with, what they have to say about either party. I love that. I also love that we get so much footage. We get so many different videos and pictures and things that, the everyday person hasn't seen before. And you can just see the contradictions of what they were to each other on stage and all the love and affection in this whole persona. But behind closed doors, she mentions, being beaten with the shoe stretchers and things like wire hangers, and him using that as well as, sex to control her. Now, I was very interested in this aspect of the documentary because, of course, in the movie, we do see a really brutal rape scene, R-word scene between, Lawrence Fishburne and Angela Bassett's character. And I just always wonder, because his family, Ike's family, and as well as himself, were very adamant about, he never did that to her. That never happened. But people need to do, which is, it's a movie. We sold the book. They can do what they want to with those rights, and they are allowed to, dramatize certain situations. But it does need to be, made to be understood that that was sexual abuse. Him beating her, and though it was not, that, but in a sense, it's still, we're driving around the block. Because he's forcing himself on her. Not only, she's like, I'm black and blue, and he's still, screwing the mess out of me. Like, just imagine the mind games and something like that can do to someone. Like, it was horrible. Very horrible for her. And we just get more of Tina not having a voice at all. Unless she was on stage singing, she had no voice and no presence within the group or within her marriage. You even see, the reason that he gave her the name. And you would think that this is something, they sat down together, like, hey, let's, do this. And maybe, no, she had no parts. And, the slavery of it all, to take someone's name away and just give them a new name, as well as beating them. And sounds like slavery to me. Even with the contracts that she was signing, they kind of, gloss over it. They don't go into depth, but you do see, small figures such as, $1,200 and $500. Like, who y'all paying that to? Not the woman out here pumping and sweating and singing all night. You get into the work of it all, like her just working like a whole mule, and the entire group as a whole. And from the film, find your ass. a whole perfectionist. If you're not getting this right, we're practicing. When we're not practicing, we're practicing, and then we're going to practice some more. And you see that also really conditioned her to be the performer that she was, so many years off, because she spent so much time just drilling and going and going and going. It was just like, whew. It was horrible, but girl, she be on it because she would perform her ass off. Now, after that, we get into chapter 2, which is her as a mother. Her just being a mom and really trying to be there for her 4 sons. I was interested in this aspect too because we did not get that in the film. We did see that Ike, had prior children, go on with your daddy. Oh, you a family man. Take these kids. What I'm gonna do with 2 more kids, huh? What I'm gonna do with 2 more kids? We got that, but we did not discuss in the film Tina having a son prior to her ever being with Ike, courtesy of a jazz player, saxophone player, I believe, that was in the band. So she had a son and he had his 2 sons and they had that on, which gives them 4 children. And you get into her really, wanting to be a mom, but just couldn't because they were working so rigorously, so that when she was there, she was very strict and, very hands-on, wanting to be with her kids and really, have some type of prominence in their life because she just couldn't be there the way that she wanted to. But she really, you can tell that she loved her kids and as well as her stepchildren. Now, we also get into her home life. I was so glad that this was touched on also. Like, there are some things in this documentary, y'all go watch it. We get into her mom and dad, because it's just like she said that she kept getting the question, why did you stay? Why didn't you just leave? And, we get a little bit of in the movie. It's just like, you just gonna leave me. Like, don't get me started on Whistler, girl. I can quote. You just gonna leave me like all the mother suckers I made famous. Huh? That's what you gonna do? You gonna leave now? You gonna go? But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just Ike on her neck. She wasn't brought up in the most, nurturing environment. Her mom and her dad fought all the time. And it was a very abusive situation up until they pretty much just got up one day and they were both gone. The dad was gone and then the mother was gone, and they were left with relatives and left to just kind of fend for themselves. And it was like, damn. Just to be left like that, you can understand why she would attach herself to someone like an Ike and just stick around for so long, because it's just crazy to just think about someone just leaving, not just her and her sister. I'm like, why we couldn't sprinkle some of that in the movie? Why we had to get into you got her singing like a man? Like, why we had to go there? But she was left, and it was very traumatic for her. So after we get into countless songs, the documentary does, spend a lot of moments on their songs that they're so familiar for, like, you're just a fool, you ain't love what you say. No. And they put, the date that it came out, and there were countless songs, coming out, but they had never actually had a hit record, even though they were performing everywhere. You get into the hustle and bustle of it all. They were performing anywhere, honey, anywhere they could feel, and hey, we're performing. We trying to get this check. But you hear about her wanting to stick around because she said, I'm not going to leave you unless I get you a hit song, and not, like a hit song. Oh, I'm sorry, it's horrible. But we get into their songs. I love that their biggest songs. I love just Tina's ability to take a song that isn't originally theirs and make it their own. Like the Proud Mary and my favorite, Come Together right now. Over me. Hey. They have an ability with her voice to take a song that isn't theirs and make it their own. And when she did that with the Proud Mary song, and we're rolling. When we did that, we finally skyrocketed and got to that fame that Ike wanted so bad. But it seems like, with, the more money and everything else, things in their marriage just got worse from there. At which we get into Tina, just kind of giving up on life and wanting to, not be here anymore, and trying to, take her own life by, pills, and her, having to have her stomach pump. Like, and you get into all these people around them that are just like, they were there and they witnessed it, but everybody was just, hey, I'm doing my job. This was coming from a time, that day and age, things that happen in people's relationship, it just happened. You didn't step on any toes and go, hey man, I don't think that's right. Hey, let's do this. That didn't happen back then. If you were being abused, you were just freaking abused, and you stayed married to these people. And that's, also contributed to her mentality. But when she said that she was, out of it, and, her stomach was being pumped, and he whispered something to her, and she was so in fear of him that it just woke her right back up because she was so scared. I was like, oh, girl. To fear someone like that is just, it's really despicable. But at that point, we get into, at this point, we had been with Ike, over 15 years. This is 15 years of abuse. Sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, this woman was drained. But Ike, with all his womanizing ways, just happened to bring home a woman who was into Buddhism. And that's when she found out about chanting and strengthening herself through that, which was beautiful. Our Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Yes, girl, yes. Now it's at that point that we get into her own personal telling of that fight, that infamous, don't start with me, Ike, I ain't in the mood. Oh, you ain't in the mood? We get into that. And the fact that we've been so desensitized to that movie and things like that, to the point that it's kind of just quotable and kind of laughable now, and something to, just discuss. And, I would, it's not funny. It's a mess. It's a mess. We a mess. But we get into that, and I think it kind of brought us back down, well, me watching the doc back down to reality, to go, no, this was very serious. Her telling of the moment in the limousine and him hitting her, and that kind of being the final straw, and her finally fighting back, and them, that walk through the hotel in that elevator, and her running across the freeway and all of those things. It hit differently with her telling it versus us seeing it, multiple times over and over, as many times as we watched the movie. Yeah, it was a totally different thing, and I love that. I also love that coincidentally her leaving, and it was like crazy. Like, she had to go in whole hiding, like she was escaping to get away from this man. And she says, that following day, it was, the 4th of July, and it just, happened to be her Independence Day as well. So for us, it's just the 4th of July. But every 4th of July for her is the day that she got her independence from that abusive situation. So by the end of that chapter, we get into the divorce and her walking away with absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just to think, you just see how hard she was working, especially from this doc. For her to walk away with absolutely nothing is crazy. The fact that she had to fight for her own name, because, it's a little easier to jump off, as Tina of, formerly of Ike and Tina Turner versus, Anime Bullock trying to, maneuver her way in. It's like, who are you again? So she deserved to walk away from her name. And she had already established, prior, when she did the song with Phil Spector, that she does have a voice to do something outside of her own. And, things were getting kind of stale. We get to that, Ike, you have your own sounds, the same, they all just sound like the same songs. We get a little bit of that, of her just feeling like, I'm stifled. But she saw that moment with Phil Spector, and, my voice can do other things. My voice can do so many other things when it's not restricted to just fit Ike's music. And we get a little bit more into what she decided to do with that in the next chapter. Now, in chapter 3, we get into Tina's comeback and trying to, kind of reinvent herself as a solo performer. But with her being so synonymous with, just Ike and Tina, she really had to grind to not only pay for bills, of missed shows and dates that had nothing to do with her because she wasn't connected to Ike anymore, but she got left with all the bills, but just to support herself and her children. So we see her, going on game show after game show and kind of, downsizing and performing at these little rinky dinks, in Las Vegas, these little bars, just, keep the lights on. And we also get into her trying to find management, like the fact that she was all of these things, but she just couldn't even find anyone who was willing to work with her because she was a woman of a certain age. Like, to even fathom anybody trying to pass up on her as a performer and her voice, is like, what? Y'all gonna pass up on, what do you mean? Like, oh, she's middle-aged. Well, what can we do with her? What? Everything. But after she, finally gets a new manager, and she's, trying to reinvent herself, because he's like, what do you want to do? And she says, I want to be a rock star. I want to fill those stadiums. Like, yes, girl, do that. And the fact that they thought that she couldn't really do these things because she was a woman and a Black woman, like, the voice speaks for itself. How could y'all, let me stop, because I'm going to go run on. But we get into her just not being able to really just get booked or get her footing anywhere or through any doors, and continuously being denied just because of her association with Ike and everything that he had going on at the time. Then we get into the book. Well, no, we didn't really get into the book then. We got into her just going public. Because at that point, you know, it's crazy to fathom now that just being a secret for so long and her keeping that, because it's just like, you know, everybody knew, but they didn't know. Nobody knew what was going on. If anything was going on, anything was showing, I hid it. I didn't confide in anybody. So the public, you know, just thought of, you know, oh, it's just a broken marriage. No, I was abused. I was hurt. I was this. And she went public with that in the magazines and the news stories and all of those things. So still even after that, we see that she still had no mainstream success within her career. And it's just like, damn, like y'all, to see her hardships after leaving Ike, it was just really ridiculous. Because you just seeing her today, you just couldn't fathom anyone just denying her in any way as an entertainer, no matter what age she was. Especially, she was still flexing. Did y'all see how fine she was? 30, 40, 50. What you mean? But we get into her moving to London and her feeling like it's a second home. There is so much talk of her not having anybody. Like I stayed to myself, so I never had any friends. I was always working. I'm not really close to my family. Her essentially being so big and being alone. What a horrible way to live. But we finally, you know, find our voice and get our footing to be this rock star in London. And you see the making of, you know, what's once again, a song that isn't her own, but she takes it and, you know, makes it a whole different thing. The way she sings it and uses her voice, and her not even wanting to do the song. It was great. That was a great moment to see. But even after we get into, you know, all of her successes and, you know, the private dancers, all the if you go to that album, all the songs on that album, great. Even after that, and us being nominated in the stadiums and the Grammys and all of the success that she could ever ask for, she still can't get out of the shadow of just being Ike's ex-wife. We continuously see her get asked again and again and again and again. And it's just like, oh my goodness. I never knew that it was just so bad, that it was just on her constantly. Like, it's like I'm doing, you know, Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome. I'm doing all of these things. You know, a whole award-winning artist. So it just didn't make sense that, you know, y'all, I didn't know that it was so heavy on her as far as the questioning. So that was surprising to see. Then we get into the book, the I, Tina book, and the fandom behind that book, and also the film. Now, this is when, not that I started to really just question her judgment, but I just really didn't understand the decision to, like, okay, you know, I'm gonna write this book because I'm so sick of all the questions being constantly asked. I just want to put everything in this book, have them read it, and be done with it. Now, that flipping and becoming something else, that was, you know, that can, you know, be resolved. That can be, you know, something unexpected. But when she says, you know, she didn't like the fanfare from the book, and, you know, it just became even worse, for her to then go ahead and pursue the movie, I didn't understand that part. I did not understand that part. I just didn't understand. Like, we even see a scene, you know, where they're having, you know, press release, and she's going, you know, I haven't watched it. It's nothing I want to relive. It's nothing I want to continue to talk about. Why do the movie? Why sign away the rights to do the movie? I just didn't get the connection there, because if I want to be done with something, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I can understand the book, not the movie. But all right. Now, it's towards, you know, really the last chapters that we deal with, you know, her career blossoming and her getting to be that rock star that we always knew she was. And I just love all the little scenes we got of her performing, and the dresses, and the gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. The movement and the, girl, the fringe. But we get into her, you know, finally filling those stadiums and all of those things. And we just get to the love aspect of her life and the lacking thereof. Because remember, by this point, you know, we're almost 50 years old. Our kids are practically grown, all of them. And it's just like, you know, I don't have anybody. I don't know what love is. I've never been given love. Like, when she had that little recording, like, I just looked at myself, you know, like, why? Why doesn't anybody love me? Oh, I was like, oh, girl, no, we love you, girl. We love you. Like, no, girl. But just to feel it, you know, genuinely from somebody, like, it's like I never felt anything from anybody who didn't have their own agenda or didn't want something from me. And we even get more often to her mom, and it's just like when she said, like, you know, who did this? Because I know you didn't do it. Girl, if you... It was giving trifling, you know what I'm saying? It was giving trifling. And just for her to just, you know, say, even though my mom was all these things, I still took care of her. I still, you know, treated her to the best because, you know what, was I not going to? Like, I still love my mom regardless of what's going on with her. So for her mom to have that mentality, all even at, you know, upwards of her 70s, 80s years old, you could just imagine who she was as a mother to Tina and what, you know, went on in her life. But after that, we kind of close out with her not only blossoming in her career, but finally finding love, some young love, some 20 years younger love. And just to see, you know, the connection that happened with that and her finally finding someone, and that area blossomed for her because it was lacking for so long. It was really beautiful to see. I even like the fact that they didn't get married until, you know, like way down the line. And you even, you know, during the interview, you hear her, you know, mention like, you know, when do we get married? How long? And he's just there talking like they're still there. And you can see that even from day one, those butterflies that they still had for each other is still there. And the love is still very fresh. That was great. But we just pretty much end off, you know, with more music and her just being fulfilled, not only now as an artist and as a rock star, but also in her, you know, personal life, which is, you know, what she really always wanted. I loved it. But you guys, that was my Tina review. I hope you guys enjoyed the documentary. Please drop down and tell me what you thought about it. You know, how did you feel about watching it? What did you get from it? Do you feel like when you watched the same story twice? Did you learn anything new? Do you have, you know, a newly found admiration for Tina? Was this your first introduction? If it was, go find her music, go find it and go listen to it. I am not biased. And I know it's all the same songs, but I really love her stuff with Ike. I really love the raunchy funkiness of it. Not that I don't love Tina the rock star and her music choices there, but that's my fave. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.